So principle 11 is use edges and value the marginal. Okay, what does that mean? And I've taken, we have obviously thought a bit about edges quite a lot during the course. And we talked about maybe sometimes how new ideas or regeneration comes from edges. How we get very unique sets of circumstances. We get a unique set of conditions at an edge, where sometimes we get the best of both conditions, where the forest meets the grassland, or where the sea meets the shore, water meets land, where land meets air. These are all very interesting edges. The surface of the water and the air, you get a unique set of conditions. So we're going to think about that a little bit. The icon, the picture that we have to remember, is it shows hills moving into the plain. So the edge between the mountains and the plain. The sun is setting. It's the edge between day and night. We have a river. So that's the edge between wet and dry, between land and water. These are all very interesting areas of possibilities. The saying is, just because it is a well-beaten path doesn't mean you're on the right track. So that's a kind of a slightly different thing. What's that got to do with edges? Well, this is the way I see this, is that the whole world is blindly following each other in the wrong direction. We're not thinking. We're still chasing after the oil economy, the using materials and throwing them away economy, the idea that the world isn't going to run out. We're not hitting the limits of the planet, which we are. So we still just follow the people in front of us because that's what humans do. So this is a different kind of edge, is can we break off? Can we create our own journey, our own pathway? There's something that speaks, to what we know to be true through experience. So it says use edges and value the marginal. It's often, it's often the quiet voice in the room that isn't speaking that holds that important information. Sometimes the loudest people, the ones who are telling us what to do, aren't always, let's say, they don't always have the whole story. We need to hear opinions from across the whole realm, including from the margins. New ideas come from margins. Succession and new growth comes from margins, from edges. So we're interested in edges. And yesterday we talked about using and valuing diversity. Diversity of crops, diversity of people, diversity of culture. We are not all the same. We have all things that are similar and unite us. Individually, we can all contribute in our own way. So again, this is about the inclusivity. Permaculture embraces diversity and differences and accepts that we can't all be the same. It says, with every land-based ecosystem, the living soil, which may only be a few centimeters deep, is an edge. It's an interface between the non-living mineral earth and the atmosphere. For all terrestrial life, including humanity, this is the most important edge of all. I like to think about this. When we talked about soil, and we said that soil was mineral particles and water and soil biota, humus and dead organic matter, we also said that by volume, it's 50% air. Healthy soil is 50% air. It's being kind of fluffed up by the worms and the life within it. So I think, so soil, is it part of the land or is it part of the sky? If it's 50% air, it's a bit of both. It's the edge. It's the edge where everything comes from, is where you get a mixing together of both aspects, the mineral world and the astral world, the atmosphere. Interesting to think about that. So when we're creating soil, we're creating an edge where plants can get an establishment and can grow. Can we create cultural edges? Can we create edges in our community where different groups of people can speak to each other, where the old and the young, the men and the women, I don't know, one tribe, another tribe, one community, another community. It's very important that we create spaces where edges, where we can come together and explore the things that we all agree about. Water flows downhill, making compost, soil, these universal kind of permaculture truths. So increasing the edge between a field and a pond increases the productivity of both. Alley farming, shelter belt forestry can be seen as systems where increasing edge between field and forest contribute to productivity. The proverb, "Don't think you're on the right track just because it is a well-beaten path," reminds us that the most common, obvious, and popular is not necessarily the most significant or influential. It's daring you to think for yourself. Interesting. Okay, principle 12. Creatively use and respond to change. And I always kind of think that permaculture begins and ends with this principle. It's a cycle that doesn't end. We go straight on to principle 1, observe and interact. Creatively use and respond to change. The only thing you can be sure of in life is change. Things will change. Tomorrow will be different from today. So we're advised to use that process creatively, not to try and drag our heels and keep everything the same, but understand that things slowly move forward. Also, the saying is about the possibility of change. See things for what they can be, not what they are. So see beyond the blank canvas, the empty field. See the possibilities of what you could create through a process of design. How do you come about to start an enterprise or a garden or a farm or to build a house? Is you make a plan. You have this long-term objective. What I was saying about in the permaculture journey, see the potential. And if you can begin to see the potential, you can build a plan that's going to get you there. It's going to be your journey to that place. So this principle has 2 threads: designing to make use of change in a deliberate and cooperative way, and creatively responding or adapting to large-scale system change, which is beyond our control and influence. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? So there's 2 kinds of change. There's the change that you can initiate. I'm going to put that over there. I'm going to dig this hole in the ground. I'm going to design and build a compost toilet. That's change. That's you creating change. But then there's another kind of change, which is the things we can't do anything about. The seasons, large scale things. And of course, the world is changing. The global economy is changing. We're reaching the end of an era of oil age, of the dominance of Europe and America. All of that is changing. And we've also got to be able to move in relation to that. The coronavirus, it's change. The coronavirus is planet Earth telling us it's not happy. It's telling us that in some ways we've initiated an immune response from evolution, from creation. Because if we're damaging the Earth, in some ways, the Earth is trying to protect itself against human activity. These are changes, and we need to listen and learn to take on to understand how to work with this. It's no good just pretending or wishing it wasn't there, because it's there. The acceleration of ecological succession is the most common expression of this principle in permaculture. For example, the use of a fast-growing, nitrogen-fixing tree to improve soil and to provide shelter and shade for more valuable, slow-growing food trees. This reflects an ecological succession process from pioneers to climax. So, as permaculture observers, we can see that nature wants to grow, nature wants to build, forests essentially grow themselves, but we can accelerate that process, that succession, by understanding that the nature of that change, and we can add species, fast-growing nitrogen-fixing trees, for example, that accelerate that process. So change in whatever form it comes is inevitable. It always is going to happen. Change is the one constant in life. Permaculture design is a way to successfully navigate these constantly shifting sands of time. Change can be frightening. Okay, we had a little disruption there, and I'll just get to the end of this. Yeah, change can be frightening, destabilizing, challenging, but it always represents new opportunity. Permaculture challenges to embrace change, to apply learning, to create ways forward that take best advantage of new conditions. So for the very reasons that things never stay the same, permaculture advises us to observe and interact, to find creative ways to turn problems into solutions, always. Okay.